It began with a broadcast, not to humans, but to their killers. On the fractured edge of the Orion Arm, where human colonies spread like green shoots across barren rock, the Zereth Dominion descended upon Kadesh IV. The colony was scarcely 50 years old, its domes still smelling of polymer and steel, its gardens clinging to the imported soils of Earth. There were no fleets, no weapons, only farmers, teachers, engineers, and children. The Zereth did not arrive with negotiation or warning. Their warships darkened the skies, blotting out the pale sun. Atmosphere cannons fired without prelude. Cities cracked open like eggshells. The screams of 10,000 settlers were carried into the void, then silenced under the thunder of orbital fire. It was not war. It was slaughter. But the Zereth were not content with destruction alone. They recorded their triumph, transmitting across trade routes and open frequencies, images of burning domes, human bodies charred in the streets, and the guttural laughter of their commanders echoing through the stars. Their envoy, a scaled thing with a voice like broken glass, declared, "The Terrans are weak, soft. They spread like vermin but lack claws. Their stubborn expansion has ended here. Let this be known. The Dominion rules. Humanity kneels." The message ended with the execution of Kadesh's governor, dragged before a crowd, torn apart, and displayed as an example of what awaited anyone who defied the Zereth. And across the stars, as alien civilizations listened, the laughter of the Dominion echoed. They had struck the humans and believed it would end there. They were wrong. Empires mocked the silent Earth. For weeks, the galaxy buzzed with the arrogance of predators. The Zereth held feasts upon the bones of their victims. They toasted their victory with blood wine, praising their empire's strength. Their scholars mocked the humans as half-grown apes, builders of fragile habitats, dreamers rather than warriors. They endure because others permit it, the Zereth High Warmaster sneered. Without guardianship, the ape breaks. Without Earth's cradle, they die. One strike proves their fragility. Other empires listened and found themselves agreeing. The humans had long been considered curiosities, ambitious but fragile, obsessed with ideals of cooperation and patience. To the war-born species of the galaxy, patience was weakness. Forgiveness was cowardice, and Earth was silent. No retribution. No fleet movements. No war declarations. The galaxy watched. Some believed the Terrans mourned. Others thought they licked their wounds. A few even suggested they had accepted the loss as the cost of expansion. The Zereth mocked this silence as proof. "The apes fear us," they roared across subspace. "Let them learn their place in the dark." But silence is not always surrender. Sometimes, silence is the drawing of breath before the scream, the breaking of silence. When Earth answered, it was not with words. The first sign came as ghostly pings on long-range sensors. Merchant fleets traveling through neutral systems reported massive subspace disturbances. Entire trade routes were disrupted by the passage of something vast, silent, and unseen. Then the stars began to vanish. Systems along the Zereth frontier blinked into emergency alerts. Unknown contacts emerged from warp. Massive constructs unlike anything charted before. Terran dreadnoughts. Their hulls were black as obsidian, edged in white steel, shaped not for elegance but for annihilation. They came in silence. No broadcasts, no threats, no declaration of intent. A single warning was delivered, repeated in 100 systems, the same human voice, cold and unwavering. "You opened this war. You chose slaughter. You will now see how long we endure." Then the transmission ended, replaced by the sound of a ticking clock. No countdown, no numbers, just the endless ticking. The galaxy froze. The Zereth laughed at first, but the laughter faltered when the first of their border worlds burned. The tide of stubborn vengeance, human fleets struck like storms, not in days, not in weeks, but in hours. Every world along the Dominion's borders fell under fire. Orbital bombardments carved symbols into the crust. The sigil of Earth, burned so deeply it could be seen from space. Zereth warships responded in fury, hurling themselves against the human lines. And there the Dominion learned the first truth of Terran vengeance. Humans fight to the last breath. For every cruiser destroyed, another surged forward. For every fleet scattered, reinforcements arrived. Even crippled ships fought on, venting fire from broken hulls while their guns blazed until nothing remained but drifting wreckage. The Zereth expected retreat. They expected fear. Instead, they met the stubbornness of humanity, a refusal to break, a defiance that carried war beyond reason. When Dominion commanders broadcast their triumphs, Humans responded with silence and the thunder of railguns. When Zereth fleets surrounded Terran squadrons, the humans fought until the stars themselves seemed to bleed. Even their dead became weapons, detonating reactor cores as last acts of vengeance. And the galaxy whispered, "The apes do not surrender. The war that would not end empires wage war like storms, quick, decisive, and bound by cycles of victory and exhaustion." But humans were different. They carried war like a burden. They refused to let go. Months turned to years. The Zereth struck back, throwing fleet after fleet against Terran lines. But every battle, no matter the scale, ended the same. Humans fought until only silence remained, and then more humans arrived. The Dominion began to falter, not from weakness, but from attrition. Their fleets dwindled, their resources strained, their soldiers, bred for quick victories, began to question battles that dragged endlessly on, and still, humanity endured. On worlds reduced to ash, Terran colonies rebuilt, planting flags upon ruins as if to say, "We are still here." On warships scarred from 100 battles, crews patched hulls with the bones of their enemies and sailed back into fire. The Zereth called them mad. Other empires called them cursed. But in hushed tones, the galaxy began to call them something else. Unstoppable. Retribution. Without end. The climax came not in a single battle, but in the collapse of an empire's will. The Terran fleets reached the Zereth capital, a world of glittering towers and endless fortresses. For the first time in living memory, the Dominion trembled. Their war master stood before the War Council, voice breaking. "They do not tire. They do not stop. They are not fighting for victory. They are fighting because we struck them, and they will not end until nothing remains." And then the humans came. Dreadnoughts blotted out the sun. Dropships fell like burning meteors, disgorging soldiers who fought without pause, without hesitation, as if fueled by vengeance alone. Every fortress cracked. Every defense failed. The skies burned with the fire of orbital bombardment, and the Zereth capital became a graveyard. But humanity did not stop at victory. They dismantled. They burned. They carved destruction into every symbol of Zereth pride. They did not simply win. They erased. And when the galaxy asked why, the answer was simple, carried on every Terran broadcast. Because you thought we would stop. Because you thought we would forgive. Because you thought humanity breaks. The aftermath. Silence and fear. When the fires finally dimmed, the Zereth Dominion no longer breathed. Their fleets were ash. Their worlds smoldered. Their name became a warning, not a legacy. And humanity, scarred, battered, but unbroken, stood amidst the ruins. Other empires watched in silence. They remembered the laughter. They remembered the mockery. And they remembered how the humans had endured long past reason, long past mercy, long past the lifespan of empires themselves. The whispers spread from system to system, carried like prayers. Never provoke Earth, for patience is long. Silence is deceptive. And human stubbornness, that refusal to yield, that endless drive to endure, carried wars longer than empires could ever breathe. And in the blackness of space, where ruins floated as warnings, one truth was carved into the stars themselves: human vengeance has no end.